After the Project Grudge investigation, which was later known as Project Blue Book, Lieutenant Edward Ruppelt.
I've always been intrigued by the unknown, but this one sent chills down my spine.
At Area 51. In Area 51, you went like, huh?
Well, we want to be accurate.
Okay.
Area S4.
An FBI agent just declassified a set of UFO files, and what they reveal is absolutely mind-blowing.
Image of an alien spacecraft, over Austin.
Yeah.
And it's going to do a great job.
We're talking about detailed encounters, strange crafts defying the laws of physics, and evidence that's been buried for decades.
It's been this memo about flying discs or flying saucers, and
the implications of these files are massive, and the truth might be more unsettling than we ever imagined. So let's get into it. Just when you thought summer in 1947 was all about beach parties and jazz, along comes Kenneth Arnold to turn everyone's eyes skyward, and not just to admire the weather. On June 24th, around 3 p.m., Arnold was just minding his business, flying his plane near Mount Rainier, Washington. That's when he spotted something that would forever change the UFO scene. He saw 9 shiny objects zipping through the sky at a mind-boggling speed of at least 1,200 miles per hour. Arnold described their movement as if you'd thrown a saucer across the water. And just like that, flying saucers became a thing. The press went nuts over it, and Arnold's sighting was plastered all over the media. This kicked off a summer frenzy of UFO sightings. More than 800 reports flooded in from across the country, with everyone from Joe Schmo to high-ranking military officials swearing they saw something strange in the skies. Now, while everyone was busy looking up, down in Roswell, New Mexico, things were about to get even weirder. Early July rolled around, and a rancher named W.W. MacBrazel stumbled upon some bizarre debris on his property. Not your usual farm waste. This stuff was strange enough to make him call the local sheriff, who in turn roped in the military from the nearby Roswell Army Airfield. Enter Major Jesse Marcel, the intelligence officer who got the lucky job of checking out what Brazel found. The military was quick to shout from the rooftops that they'd nabbed a flying disc, but faster than you can say, cover up, they backpedaled to claim it was just a weather balloon. This whirlwind of events and the mystery debris from Roswell prompted the big shots at the United States Air Force to step in. They were scratching their heads just as much as the public and decided it was high time to get some answers. Thus, Project Sign was born in 1948, marking the start of an official, systematic study into these mysterious UFOs. Now, as if flying saucers weren't enough to keep the gossip mills running, enter the Guy Hottel Memo of 1950. March 22nd, 1950, a rather unassuming date that ended up linked to tales of extraterrestrial visitations in the good old US of a Guy Hottel, then the head honcho of the FBI's Washington, D.C. field office, penned a memo that since stirred up its fair share of chatter. In it, he relayed some jaw-dropping info from an Air Force investigator about 3 flying saucers recovered in New Mexico. These weren't your garden variety frisbees, mind you. Each saucer spanned 50 feet with a fancy raised center. Pretty swanky designs, if you ask me. Inside each craft, 3 little beings, standing about 3 feet tall, decked out in the finest metallic threads. Now, Hottel tossed in a zinger. The local powerhouse radar might have goofed up the saucer's navigation systems, leading to their unexpected detour to Earth. But he mentioned the FBI didn't really dive into investigating these claims. Fast forward to 2011, when the FBI decided to let the cat out of the bag and released heaps of their old files online, including the famed Hottel Memo. Suddenly, everyone was clicking away, and this memo skyrocketed to nearly 1 million views. People were buzzing, thinking this was proof for government-covered alien encounters. However, the FBI had to step in and calm the masses, clarifying that this memo was more like a game of intergalactic telephone. There was no first-hand proof, just unchecked chatter that never really got the full FBI treatment. There's talk it might have even been a hoax, but without concrete proof in those FBI files, the truth remains as elusive as those flying saucers. Now, let's glide over to another enigmatic chapter in UFO folklore without missing a beat. The year is 1948, and we're still in New Mexico, this time near Aztec, where another UFO is rumored to have made an unscheduled stop. Known as the Aztec UFO incident, this story has been fueling debates and documentaries for the better part of a century. Here's the scoop. A massive disc-shaped craft, about 100 feet across, was seen chilling on a mesa in Hart Canyon, just 12 miles northeast of Aztec. Unlike your typical Hollywood crash scene, this UFO was pretty much intact, suggesting maybe these extraterrestrial visitors planned to stop by. The craft was made from some kind of ultra-strong, lightweight metal with no seams. It's like IKEA furniture from the future. No screws required. But here's where it gets eerie. There was a small crack, more like a broken porthole, through which the local oil field workers who stumbled upon this find saw something that would haunt their dreams forever. Inside were small, charred bodies that seemed to have met a grim fate. As soon as they reported it, the area became swamped with military personnel faster than you can say. Classified information. They cordoned off the site, shooed away the curious, and slapped a big old national security sticker on the incident. Word on the street was that the military whisked away the craft and its unfortunate passengers to a top-secret lab for some serious sci-fi autopsy. The story first hit the shelves with journalist Frank Scully's 1950 book, Behind the Flying Saucers, based on juicy tidbits from Silas Newton, a businessman with more oil than sense, and a mysterious Dr. G. They spun a yarn about recovering the craft and the bodies of these little alien beings. Scully ate it up, and the public was hooked. But turns out Newton and his scientist buddy were pulling a fast one. By 1952, another journalist, J.P. Kahn, exposed them as frauds in a scathing expose. They were trying to peddle alien technology gadgets that were about as extraterrestrial as a rubber chicken. The whole alien material they were flaunting? Just good old aluminum. Despite being debunked, the tale of the Aztec UFO refuses to die. In the 80s, some ufologists cried cover up, and more recently, the Ramseys and Frank Thayer threw their hats in the ring, with a book claiming the incident wasn't just smoke and mirrors, but a bona fide cover-up of cosmic proportions. Whether it's a monumental government conspiracy or just a desert mirage, the Aztec UFO incident continues to be a hot topic for both skeptics and believers. Now, while the desert sands of New Mexico were busy hiding alien secrets, the skies above post-World War II America were buzzing with unidentified flying objects of their own. This surge in celestial sightings caught the eye of the United States Air Force, prompting them to launch Project Blue Book in 1952. Stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, Project Blue Book was like the blockbuster squad of UFO investigation. Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, the first director, brought a fresh vibe to the task. This wasn't going to be your typical chase after little green men gig. No, Ruppelt was all about the science. Cool, calm, collected, and systematic. His motto, don't just believe or debunk, investigate. Under Ruppelt's watch, things got pretty intense. The team roped in the Battelle Memorial Institute to crunch some serious numbers, diving into 3,201 UFO sightings reported between 1952 and 1954. The findings? Well, let's just say 22% of those sightings remained a complete head-scratcher, throwing a wrench in the works for anyone claiming it was all just a bunch of weather balloons. Even the CIA got in on the action, peering over the shoulders of the Project Blue Book team in 1953 with the Robertson panel. Their take was a bit of a shocker. No ET threats here, but maybe tone down the public's alien fever with some good old-fashioned education. As the baton passed from Ruppelt to Captains Charles Hardin and later Major Robert J. Friend, the project's zeal saw some highs and lows. By the mid-1960s, public intrigue and eyebrow-raising incidents like the Lonnie Zamora sighting in New Mexico gave Project Blue Book a new pulse. This led to a call for a reality check by none other than the University of Colorado, headed by physicist Dr. Edward Condon. The Condon report dropped in 1968 saying, essentially, nothing to see here, folks, when it came to UFOs bringing us any blockbuster scientific breakthroughs. By December 17, 1969, the curtain fell on Project Blue Book, After a saga of 17 years and 12,618 reports, with 701 still lounging in the unidentified category, the official word was that these mysterious sightings were neither a menace nor a showcase of interstellar tech. But let's not park our flying saucer just yet. Over in Lubbock, Texas, 1951 turned out to be a stellar year for UFO buffs. This whole shebang kicked off on the night of August 25th, around 9:20 p.m., when 3 Texas Technological College professors found themselves eyeballs deep in a backyard chat about micrometeorites. That's when the sky decided to put on a show. These guys, Dr. A.G. Oberg, Dr. W.L. Ducker, and Dr. W.I. Robinson, saw not one, not two, but a V formation of 20 to 30 bluish-green lights zipping across the heavens. These lights, bright as stars but a tad chunkier, made their interstellar runway walk in mere seconds. An hour later, another set of lights did a casual flyby, but this time, they were all over the place. The professors wasted no time. They shot off a report to the local news slingers at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, sparking a town-wide "what the heck was that?" conversation. Soon after, more sightings poured in. 3 women in Lubbock noticed some peculiar flashing lights that same evening, and a German professor at Texas Tech, Dr. Karl Heminger, confessed to seeing them too. Not one to miss out on the sequel. On September 5th, the professors, plus a couple more curious minds, caught the encore performance. Dr. Grayson Mead even threw out there that these lights were absolutely circular, rocking a greenish-blue, slightly fluorescent vibe and zipping at speeds over 600 miles per hour. But here's where it gets Hollywood-worthy. A 19-year-old Texas Tech freshman, Carl Hart Jr., probably thinking about his next chemistry exam, found himself staring at a V formation of white lights one night. Quick on the draw with his Kodak 35mm, he snagged 5 photos of these mysterious lights. The local paper's editor forked over $10 for these snaps, cheekily warning young Carl about the potential fallout if they turned out to be phony. Enter the U.S. Air Force and Lieutenant Edward J. Ruppelt, head honcho of Project Blue Book, the Air Force's official X-Files team. Ruppelt rolled into Lubbock, gave everyone involved the 3rd degree, and peeked at Hart's photos. While he couldn't nail down exactly what the lights were, he ruled out birds, refracted light, and no, they weren't spacecraft. He hinted at a mundane explanation, but kept the details under wraps, citing a promise to the anonymous explain-all scientist. Now, as the Lubbock Lights mystery simmered in the minds of UFO enthusiasts, the skies weren't done just yet. Flash forward to December 9th, 1965, and the night sky over Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Ontario lights up with a brilliant fireball. Thousands of eyes were glued to this dazzling aerial ballet, but little did they know that this was just the opening act to the enigmatic event known as the Kecksburg Incident. Bill Bullbush, a sharp-eyed observer, claimed he saw the object itself maneuvering before it took a dive into the forest. He described it as an acorn-shaped object, about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, with a metallic bronze sheen and what looked like ancient hieroglyphs etched around its base. The intrigue thickened as the local volunteer fire department and a few adventurous souls rushed to the scene. However, they weren't alone for long. The Pennsylvania State Police and U.S. military were quick to secure the area, cordoning it off and politely but firmly telling civilians to mind their own beeswax. The plot thickened when, later that night, a mysterious flatbed truck was spotted hauling away a large, covered object. Cue the gossip and wild speculations. The next morning, the Greensburg Tribune-Review published a bombshell headline: "Unidentified flying object falls near Kecksburg. Army ropes off area." Yet, as if to calm the storm, officials later claimed a thorough search turned up zilch, nada, nothing but the echoes of a supposed meteor. Despite the official brush-off, the Kecksburg incident has kept tongues wagging for decades. Was it a Soviet satellite, like Cosmos 96, gone off course, or something more out of this world? The military's hush-hush response and the absence of concrete evidence have only pumped up the volume on public curiosity and skepticism. Fast forward to today, and Kecksburg has leaned into its brush with the unknown. the town now throws an annual UFO festival, which draws crowds eager to celebrate and speculate about their brush with the unknown. They've even got a replica of the mysterious acorn-shaped object near the local fire station, a solid, if enigmatic, tribute to that bizarre night. As you might guess, Kecksburg isn't the only place with tales of unexpected visitors and lights in the sky. Just 2 years later, on a seemingly ordinary night, October 4th, 1967, the small fishing village of Shag Harbor in Nova Scotia got its own slice of the UFO pie. At around 11:20 p.m., residents saw not one, not two, but 4 orange lights dancing across the sky, flashing one after the other before taking a nosedive into the chilly waters below. Now, 5 teenagers were just hanging out when they spotted these lights plunging toward the harbor like a grand finale. Laurie Wickens, cruising with his buddies on Highway 3, saw the splashdown and thought, uh-oh, that's not supposed to happen. So he did what any good citizen would do, called it in, thinking it was an aircraft emergency. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, represented by officers Ron Pond and Ron O'Brien, show up faster than you can say moose tracks. And what do they see? This odd yellow glow bobbing about 800 meters offshore. Now everyone's thinking it's a crash scene, so they get the Rescue Coordination Center, RCC, in Halifax on the horn to round up some help. Here's where it gets fishier than a Friday night dinner special. Local fishermen, including the intrepid Captain Leo Howard Mersey, join the RCMP on this wild UFO chase. They motor out and find this bizarre yellow foam on the water with a stench of sulfur strong enough to peel paint. But survivors, wreckage, parts, nada, nothing. The next morning, the RCC does a head count, and guess what? All planes accounted for. No missing aircraft. But this doesn't sit right with the military. They send in a team of Navy divers who comb the seabed like they're looking for lost treasure. 3 days later, they come up as empty-handed as a ghost's pockets. The media went nuts, of course. Could be something concrete in Shag Harbor UFO. RCAF, screams the headline in the Halifax Chronicle-Herald. Despite everyone from local yokels to top brass sniffing around, the object that decided to take a dip in Shag Harbor remains a mystery. Fast forward to today, and what do you have? A village that not only embraces its X-Files-worthy moment, but celebrates it. Now hop across the pond to late December 1980, where another eerie episode unfolds in Rendlesham Forest, near the twin Royal Air Force bases of Bentwaters and Woodbridge in Suffolk, England. Around the witching hour of 3 a.m. on December 26th, some sharp-eyed security personnel at RAF Woodbridge noticed something more than a bit peculiar. Unusual lights. Not your garden variety Christmas lights, descending into the nearby Rendlesham Forest. Curiosity, as it tends to do, got the better of them, and a brave small team, including Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston and Airman First Class John Burrows, decided to venture into the forest to check things out. What they stumbled upon wasn't Santa's sleigh, but a metallic, triangular craft bathed in a pulsating glow. Peniston got so up close and personal that he even managed to sketch some strange symbols he found etched on its surface. As if in a hurry to leave a weird party, the object zipped back into the sky, leaving everyone scratching their heads. The next morning, the plot thickened with the discovery of 3 small depressions in the forest floor, a classic sign of something more intriguing than a heavy owl landing. Burn marks and broken branches also whispered of high strangeness. But the show wasn't over. 2 nights later, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, possibly expecting something strange, led another expedition armed to the teeth with a Geiger counter. Not only did they find elevated radiation levels, but they also saw a red light playing peekaboo through the trees, and 3 star-like objects darting across the sky in a manner that would give any air traffic controller a migraine. Holt was so moved by the experience that he penned a memo that made its way to the UK Ministry of Defence, no doubt raising a few eyebrows over tea. His observations also survived on an audio recording, immortalizing his bewildered commentary. Despite all the eerie evidence, the local constabulary and the MOD chalked it up to the Orford Ness Lighthouse playing tricks in the night and some overly spirited animals. Officially, it was a non-issue, but for those who gaze up at the stars and wonder, Rendlesham remains a tantalizing enigma wrapped in a riddle. Now, let's take a trip across the pond to a slightly warmer clime and time, the Phoenix Lights of 1997. On the evening of March 13, 1997, Arizona turned into the backdrop for what looked like an interstellar parade. It all kicked off around 7:55 p.m., when some folks in Henderson, Nevada, caught sight of a giant V-shaped object cruising the sky, decked out with 6 lights. Not to be outdone, an ex-cop in Paulden, Arizona, spotted a bunch of reddish-orange lights playing peekaboo as they dipped over the southern horizon. As the night marched on, the reports started stacking up like pancakes at a breakfast buffet, with Prescott Valley residents getting in on the action. They saw the lights morphing from a rowdy arc to a more composed, upside-down V formation. Now, Kurt Russell, the actor, was flying his plane that night and ended up playing a cameo in this celestial drama. He radios into air traffic control about the lights, and guess what? They tell him the sky's as clear as his conscience on a Sunday morning. Fast forward to between 8:30 and 8:45 p.m., and the folks in Glendale are now part of the audience. They watch these lights sashay across the sky, occasionally ducking behind some thin clouds like they were shy or something. Meanwhile, an amateur astronomer, Mitch Stanley, tried to spoil the fun by claiming they were just planes flying in a tight little group. But wait, there's more. At about 10 p.m., Phoenix became the main stage for Act 2. A string of dazzling lights took their positions in the sky, not rushing anywhere, just hanging out. This grabbed enough attention to get snapped and filmed from every angle, making it a blockbuster night, according to UFO aficionado Robert Schieffer. The military tried to roll credits on this saga, explaining the whole thing away as flares from training exercises. They said these flares, rigged with parachutes, were why the lights seemed to float like dandelion fluff before winking out. But you know how it is. The crowd wasn't buying what they were selling. Many still swear that what they saw couldn't be boxed up as mere flares or any typical night sky fare. Years have rolled by, but the Phoenix Lights haven't faded from public memory. They've been dissected in documentaries, books, and countless articles, each trying to put a pin on whether Arizona played host to extraterrestrial tourists that night, or if it was just another entry in the military's diary of sky-high shenanigans. And just when you thought airports were only for watching planes take off and land, Chicago O'Hare had its own close encounter in November 2006. United Airlines employees, from pilots to mechanics, were stopped in their tracks by a silent, metallic, saucer-shaped object just hanging out above Gate C-17. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill aircraft. This metallic, saucer-shaped oddity had no time for engines or noise, floating in eerie silence. Eyewitnesses, including pilots, mechanics, and supervisors, gave the UFO a thumbs up for its dramatic entrance, describing it as dark gray and anywhere from 6 to 24 feet across. Some said it just hung there, while others swore it did a slow pirouette in the sky. Now, despite this audience of aviation pros, the air traffic controllers were none the wiser. Radar screens were as blank as a bored security guard's expression. The thing hung around for a few minutes, probably checking out the view, before shooting straight up through the clouds, punching a neat hole in the overcast sky as it left. This hole wasn't just your average break in the clouds. It closed up as if someone zipped it back up on its way out. The FAA and United Airlines played the old "we know nothing" card, until the Chicago Tribune waived a Freedom of Information Act request and found out a United supervisor had indeed called it in. Still, the FAA chalked it up to a weather phenomenon and dropped the subject faster than an unpopular in-flight movie. Thanks to some persistent reporting, the incident made waves in the media, featuring on every news channel you could think of, and even snagged a spot on the History Channel's UFO Hunters. Fast forward to January 2015, and the skies were about to get weird again. This time, it was off the sunny shores of Florida. U.S. Navy pilots from the USS Theodore Roosevelt, who were out flexing their jet-flying muscles, came across something that couldn't be explained with a simple debrief. During their routine training, these pilots captured footage of an object zipping over the ocean so fast it earned the nickname the Go Fast video. The pilots, equipped with their nifty Raytheon AN/ASQ 228 pods, managed to snag some infrared footage of this zippy little UFO because, yes, that's exactly what it was, an unidentified flying object. And not just any UFO, but one that seemed to defy the basic laws of physics. It was darting around without any visible means of propulsion. No wings, no exhaust, just pure mystery. You can hear the excitement in their voices as one pilot cracks, "Whoa, got it." Now, you'd think with all the tech and brain power on board, they'd nail down what it was, right? Nope. The object's antics were so off the charts that the best and brightest couldn't make heads or tails of it. And it wasn't until the big reveal in 2017 by the New York Times, and some folks led by rock star turned UFO hunter Tom DeLonge, that the public got a peek at what the Navy had been keeping under wraps. Fast forward to 2020, and the Pentagon finally admits the footage is legit and wasn't just some camera trick. But here's where it gets really juicy. During a 2024 congressional hearing, Dr. John Kozlowski threw a curveball, suggesting the UFO might not have been tearing across the sky, but was actually higher and moving slower than it appeared, thanks to a trick of perspective called parallax. So much for Space Invaders, right? Speaking of mysteries, not too far back in time from the Go Fast encounter, there was another incident that had Navy personnel scratching their heads. In November 2004, off the coast of San Diego, the crew of the USS Nimitz bumped into a UFO that resembled a giant Tic Tac. The plot thickened when radar operators aboard the USS Princeton, a guided missile cruiser tagging along with the Nimitz, picked up some bizarre radar readings. They detected objects zooming down from 80,000 feet to just 20,000 feet, and then just hanging there. Yep, you heard that right. These weren't your run-of-the-mill flybys. They were chilling out in mid-air. Things really got Hollywood on November 14th, 2004. At around 12:30 p.m., Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich, who are no strangers to the skies, got the call to check out these mysterious radar blips. Reaching the coordinates, they noticed the ocean below looked like a giant pot of boiling water, only there was no pot, no water, and definitely no fire. Hovering above this nautical stir-fry was a white, oval-shaped craft about 40 feet long, sleek and smooth, without any of the usual giveaways like wings or exhaust. Now, this craft wasn't just floating idly, it seemed to dance around, zipping back and forth with such agility that it practically played tag with Commander Fravor's jet. When he tried to get a closer look, the object wasn't having it. It zoomed off, vanishing faster than a ghost running from the light, defying the very laws of physics as it went. Not ready to give up the chase, another team, led by Lieutenant Commander Chad Underwood, jumped into the fray. Underwood's jet was decked out with an advanced targeting forward-looking infrared pod, and sure enough, he snagged footage of this elusive Tic Tac doing its high-speed aerial ballet. The video, which later made rounds as the FLIR 1 footage, shows this thing darting over the ocean without any visible propulsion, pulling moves that would make even the most advanced aircraft blush. Despite all the tech and experienced eyes on it, this object managed to slip away, leaving everyone scratching their heads. The incident climbed up the chain of command, got tucked away in some confidential file, and the world remained none the wiser until the New York Times spilled the beans in December 2017, complete with pilot interviews and that infamous video. What do you think about these chilling revelations from the newly declassified FBI UFO files? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this blew your mind, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more shocking revelations, and tap the bell icon so you're always in the know.